Insane twist. Billionaire's ex and his twins desperately text for shelter at 3 a.m. in the cold. The night was darker than a bottomless pit, doused only by the glimmering city lights that illuminated the skyline. It was at 3 a.m. when the storm rolled in, fierce and unrelenting, crashing icy rain against the windows of luxury high-rises. Inside one such glamorous tower, a desperate message flickered to life on a glinting smartphone. "Please, we need shelter, it's freezing, help us." The words were sent with trembling fingers, but the urgency? It felt like a scream piercing the silence. The billionaire's ex-wife, Elena, wasn't just typing for herself. No, tucked under her worn-down coat were her terrified twins, shivering and clutching each other as the chill seeped into their bones. The twins, Max and Mia, were supposed to be cozy in their plush beds. But here they were, outside the lofty walls of luxury, faces pale, eyes wide. They could hear the howling winds, yet that terrifying loneliness was deafening. Who had the audacity to bring them so low? The visuals of their once opulent lifestyle slipped through Elena's mind like grains of sand. They had it all: a sprawling estate, a gourmet chef, the best of everything. How had she fallen? As her heart raced, she could feel the tightness in her chest, a lump growing. Would their billionaire father even care enough to respond? As she hit send, a flicker of doubt gnawed at her. What if he refused? Outside, the wind picked up, shrieking like a banshee as the rain pounded down with a vengeance. Every drop felt like a hammer, but it was the kids' whimpers that hurt the most. Moments dragged on, the seconds ticking like hours. Would someone see their plea? The thought hung heavy in the air, thick and suffocating. Families like hers didn't end up on the streets. It was unthinkable. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sudden buzz of a phone jolted her from her spiraling thoughts. Was that it? Was help on the way? She grabbed for the phone as if it were a lifeline. But it wasn't a response from him. It was the chilling notification of an incoming email. Her heart sank. In that moment, everything felt so hopeless, like standing at the edge of a cliff. What would it take for her to get help? Could she even count on the man who had once promised her forever? As her mind raced, a faint light appeared in the distance, cutting through the thick darkness, sending a shiver down her spine. Was it hope, or was it something more sinister lurking in the night? The answer felt just beyond reach, spinning in the air like those wild winds that wanted to take her away. Elena's fingers trembled as she weighed her options. The glow of the phone screen flickered like a dying star. Should she open the email? Or should she stick with the uneasy silence, the anticipation so thick it felt nearly suffocating? After a brief moment of hesitation, she clicked on the notification, curiosity overpowering her fear. The subject line chilled her to the bone: legal matters, immediate attention required. With a sense of dread wrapping around her, she opened it. The words blurred as her heart raced. Your access to the estate has been revoked due to ongoing disputes related to custody. You must vacate the premises immediately. Each letter felt like a dagger, twisting in her chest. How could he? How could David take everything from her? The raw betrayal ignited a fury deep within her. Mia let out a soft whimper, breaking her focus. Elena glanced down, her daughter's round eyes reflecting the fear that swirled in the cold night air. Max clutched Mia's arm, his small body shivering as the wind roared like a beast hungry for warmth. Mom, I'm scared, he whispered, sucking in a sharp breath. Elena tried to push her own fear aside. It's going to be okay, sweethearts. Just hold tight. But even she didn't believe those words. The city, so alive during the day, was now an unforgiving abyss. A shadow flickered at the edge of a nearby lamppost, drawing her attention. It moved closer, and her heart raced with both fear and desperation. Was it just the wind? Or could it be a stranger, a potential savior or a threat? Her mind spiraled, torn between the hope of safety and the reality of danger. "Stay behind me," she instructed the kids, drawing them closer. The figure stepped into the light with an aura of confidence that felt unsettling. A man, dressed impeccably in tailored clothes, approached with an aura that screamed wealth. "Elena?" he called out, his voice laced with a foreign accent. "You sent for help?" Her heart shattered at the notion that someone had sent out her cry for aid. "Who are you?" she demanded, instinctively positioning herself between the man and her children. "Just a friend of your husband," he replied, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "I know it's late, but we have to move quickly. You are in danger." Elena's thoughts raced. A friend? Where was David? Why had he sent someone to find her? The pictures of their life together spun in her head, each more painful than the last. "What do you mean?" she pressed, keeping her voice low to shield the twins from the chaos. "He's not just worried about you," the man said, glancing over his shoulder. "There's someone else he didn't account for, someone who knows you're out here." Panic washed over her like icy water. "What are you talking about? Who?" But before he answered, she heard a low, menacing growl from the darkness, just beyond the streetlight's reach. A hulking silhouette emerged, its eyes glinting with instinctual predatory focus. The air shifted, palpable tension tightening around them like a noose. Elena's stomach twisted. Who were these people? How had she become so vulnerable? As the shadows closed in, she felt the weight of her choices, the looming reality that their lives were balancing on a razor's edge. And just like that, she knew, escape was no longer an option. They were caught in a deadly game. "What now?" she whispered, her throat tight with fear as she struggled to keep her children calm. "Trust me," the man replied, his voice steady but urgent. "We have to move, now." But behind them, the growl grew louder, echoing through the alley. It was only a matter of seconds before they had to face whatever was lurking. What if it was the monster from her past, or something even worse? The night, once a blanket of hope, was now alive with shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. Elena clutched her kids tightly, her heart racing, wondering how this terrifying night would end. Did she have enough strength left to fight back? Or would this be the moment everything crumbled? As they took a hesitant step forward, the monstrous growl escalated into a threatening roar. The man's eyes widened. "Run!" he shouted, and they sprinted into the night, fear propelling them like a bullet, but the real question lingered ominously in her mind: who was hunting them and why? The adrenaline surged through Elena as panic ignited every nerve in her body. She barely registered the man's urgency before she was propelled into action, the icy wind stinging her cheeks like the claws of a predator. Mia and Max stumbled behind her, their small legs pumping desperately. "Go! Go!" she urged, pushing herself and the kids faster into the maze of darkened streets and flickering lights. The growl behind them morphed into a savage snarl, an unnatural sound that sent shivers down her spine. Shadows danced along the pavement as they raced through an abandoned alley, a desperate escape from an unseen enemy. Her breath came in gasps, a mix of dread and disbelief, and through it all, a desperate need to protect her children. "Why is this happening?" she panted, glancing back at the man. He remained a few steps ahead, tension coiling around him, every sense on high alert. "Just focus on running. I'll explain later," he shouted over his shoulder. Elena's hands shook as she tightened her grip on Mia's wrist. It felt surreal, like flicking through a nightmare where everything she built was now crashing down. A sharp turn led them deeper into the alley, where shadows loomed like giant phantoms. The man stopped abruptly, holding up a hand to silence them. The atmosphere shifted, the air thick with an unnatural silence. "Stay here," he whispered, crouching low. The twins' eyes were wide, filled with fear as they huddled close to their mother. Elena felt the weight of the night closing in, pressing down on her chest as she huddled protectively over her children. "What is it?" she breathed, every instinct screaming for answers. Something is following us. His voice dwindled to a mere breath. The growl returned, sharper and more menacing than before. It cut through the darkness, sending tremors through Elena's bones. She wanted to run, to bolt back toward the initial flicker of light, but her feet felt glued to the pavement. Suddenly, the man surged up, his expression a mix of determination and desperation. We need to keep moving, or we want to make it. Without thought, she took a step forward, her protective instincts overriding the overwhelming urge to flee. Where do we go? There's a safe house, an old friend of David's. He'll help you. His eyes flickered to hers, a silent plea amid the chaos enveloping them. As they began moving again, Elena wondered about this safe house, who the man truly was, and if she could even trust him. But every instinct screamed for survival. She had to find refuge for her children. They darted through another narrow space, where the smell of dampness and decay hung heavy. A glimmer of light appeared ahead, a welcoming sight against the backdrop of shadows. Yet with every step forward, dread lingered in the pit of her stomach. Then, without warning, the street lit up, illuminating them starkly against the dark. The growl morphed into a jubilant roar, followed by the unmistakable sound of footfalls pounding the pavement. Behind them, a tall figure burst from the shadows, a wild-eyed man, disheveled and crazed, teeth bared like a lunatic. Get back! The stranger shrieked, lunging toward them. Run! The man shouted, but Elena felt paralyzed, both fear and a strange recognition washing over her. The twins clung to her waist, their hearts pounding in sync with her own. Mom! Please! With their world tumbling, Elena knew they could either stumble forward into the unknown or succumb to the madness chasing them. Mommy? Max's voice quivered, piercing through her storm of thoughts. In that moment, despite the paralyzing fear, something ignited inside her. She clenched her fists, embodying the fierce protectiveness that surged through any mother. Keep running! She screamed, propelling herself toward the light that glimmered ahead, refusing to let uncertainty drown her. Yet as they burst into the light, Elena's breath hitched. There stood a heavy door, locked with chains, its dark wood battered, an ominous barrier between her family and safety. Is this it? She gasped, trying to pull them closer, heart racing. Just watch my back. The man shouted, rushing towards the door. Time slowed, shadows still lurking at the edges. What if this was just another trap? Doubt crept in, but as her eyes caught the wild man closing in behind them, she blinked hard and moved forward, clutching her children protectively. The hunt was on, and the night was far from over. Who was this man helping them, and could she trust him enough to ensure they never faced the shadows again? The sound of footsteps echoed like thunder, drowning out Elena's thoughts. Each footfall from the crazed man behind them grew louder, sharper, slicing through the night air, amplifying her panic. She glanced back, heart racing, as the wild-eyed figure lunged again, closer this time, blurring the line between threat and horror. Faster! Stay with me! The man, their supposed savior, was at the door, tugging desperately against the heavy chains. I can't hold on. Elena's heart was a hammer in her chest. What are we waiting for? She shouted, urgency clawing at her. The kid's small hands tightened around her, their faces pale with fear. We can't let him get to us. The man was struggling with the lock, glancing over his shoulder, eyes wild. Almost got it. He yelled, his voice strained with exertion. An electrifying growl erupted behind them, sending raw terror coursing through Elena. She wanted to shove her children beneath her, to shield them from whatever madness was behind her. All she could picture was the figure, bloodied and frantic, lunging toward them through the shadows. Mom! Mia screamed, her voice piercing the tension, grounding Elena for a brief moment. Hold on. She hunched lower, blocking the children from view, but her heart raced with a different fear. Would they even make it into this so-called safe house? The man cursed under his breath, sweat glistening on his brow as his fingers fumbled awkwardly on the lock. With one final heave, he felt it give way, and the door swung open. A bright beam of light poured out, highlighting the edges of their fears, a sanctuary they so desperately needed. Get inside! He shouted, flinging the door wide, the frantic man behind them left only a breath away. Elena pushed her children forward, shoving them through the gate like it was their only salvation, praying with each inch that they wouldn't trip, wouldn't fall, wouldn't interfere with the chaos barreling in on them. Go! She screamed, practically shoving them inside, but she hesitated. A flicker of doubt gripped her. Without looking back, she ducked in just before the man slammed the door shut, locking it with an iron clang that resonated ominously in her chest. They stood in a dimly lit corridor, the walls lined with dusty boxes and shattered, crumbling furniture. The air felt thick, heavy with the whispers of the past and the sense of aged wood and forgotten memories. Is it safe now? Max's eyes darted around, wide like saucers. Is it? Elena's voice wavered as she pulled them close, gazing at the man. What now? Now we wait, he replied, panting, wiping his brow. And pray they don't find us. Her heart dropped, the weight of his words suffocating. Who were they? She demanded, an urgency in her tone. What do we have to be afraid of? He looked at her, shadows creeping back into his eyes. They're not just men, they're hunters. Elena's breath caught, and Mia buried her face into her mother's side, shivering against the unknown, pressed tight against her. She didn't understand. What had they just escaped? Had they stepped into a new kind of nightmare? The man stepped closer, his voice a harsh whisper. You need to trust me. We have to stay quiet. But a pounding responded, echoing from outside. The very ground shook beneath them, a visceral thud that froze time. Something was trying to get in. Mommy Max trembled, inches from breaking. That sound, the man's face drained of color as his eyes widened. They've found us. Elena's heart raced, her instincts flaring. We can't stay here. The walls felt like they were closing in, the sense of dread creeping back as echoes filled her mind. Each thud outside raised the stakes, revealing an unknown terror lurking just beyond their fragile barrier. Get ready, the man hissed, scrambling toward a side door Elena hadn't noticed before. We'll find another way out. Relief and fear collided in her chest. Could she trust him? But the pounding outside was relentless and unforgiving. With no other choice, Elena nodded. She grasped her children, tightening her hold on their small, trembling hands, as the door creaked open, revealing not safety, but a deeper darkness ahead, and just then, a chilling laugh pierced the night. What truly haunted this eerie refuge, and were they ever truly safe? The door swung open, exhaling stale air that carried the faint scent of mildew and something metallic. Darkness spilled out, a swallowing pit that sent a jolt of panic coursing through Elena. The man swept his flashlight beam into the blackness, the beam trembling like his hands. Move! He urged, ushering them into the unknown. Elena hesitated for the smallest moment, her thoughts racing. She felt the tug of her children at her side, and their terror sharpened her resolve. She pushed past the threshold, followed closely by Mia and Max, the hairs on her arms standing on end, the dim glow of the corridor fading into an inky void. Stay close, don't stray, she whispered, her voice low but fierce. The man led the way, the light bouncing erratically across the damp walls, illuminating glimpses of the past that lay in silence. With each step, the shadows shifted and danced, almost mocking them. The echo of the pounding outside filled the air once more, ominous and relentless. This place didn't feel safe. What are we looking for? Elena asked, her voice strained with fear. She could feel the weight of her children's breaths, quick and shallow as they clung to her. The man paused, swiveling the flashlight towards a set of rusted stairs spiraling downward. A way out or a place to hide. The words hung in the air, frail against the backdrop of their immediate danger. He took a step forward, and the floor creaked beneath him, a warning noise that reverberated through the narrow passage. Elena's heart raced again. Every sound amplified, filling the air with dread. That laugh, cold and taunting, echoed in her mind. The hunters weren't just men, they were predators. Mom, are we safe? Max asked, voice trembling. Not yet, honey, she forced out, wishing she could wrap them in a blanket of protection. They ventured deeper, the man moving cautiously, as if every creak of the floorboards might awaken a sleeping beast. They reached the bottom of the stairs, where a narrow hallway opened before them. The light flickered. "Why can't we just go back?" Mia whispered, eyes wide. "There's no time." The man hissed. "We need to keep moving." Suddenly, a loud crash sounded from above, wood splintering. Unyielding fear clutched at Elena's throat. Were they here? Had they followed them inside? "Run!" The man shouted, and there was no choice but to obey him. They dashed down the corridor, the sound of hurried footsteps and silent screams echoing in their ears. Elena felt like a caged animal, desperate to escape the invisible clutches of darkness wrapping around them. But then, light. A flicker up ahead brought a rush of hope. They burst toward it, feet pounding against the solid ground, hearts racing against their swelling panic. But as they approached, it wasn't the sanctuary they hoped for. Instead, a large room opened before them. It was cluttered with old furniture, covered in dusty sheets, and the walls lined with remnants of a once vibrant life. A massive window dominated one wall, but it was barred, trapped like an animal for others to see. "Mom!" Max's voice hitched, and dread pooled in her stomach as she scanned the room. "What is this place?" she gasped. "This is just a hideout," the man said, breathless with urgency. "But we can't stay here." "Why not?" Mia whimpered, glancing back the way they came. Before the man could respond, another loud thud echoed through the room. The hunters were getting closer. They needed a plan, a way out, but every option crumbled before them like the walls themselves. Elena could feel the shimmer of impending doom around them, tightening like a noose. "What do we do?" she asked again, desperation lacing her words. "Here." The man pointed to a small door hidden behind a pile of old furniture. "If we can get through that, we might find a way out." Time was slipping away. But as they moved toward the door, laughter rang out again, mingled with sudden, heavy footsteps approaching from behind. "Go!" Elena screamed, pushing her children ahead of her. A split second hung in the air, and then the door swung open, but what lay beyond it made Elena's blood run cold. What now? But the ominous laughter was all around now. They weren't just being hunted. They were being toyed with. What other horrors hid in the shadows, and would they make it out alive before the hunters took their final game to the next level? The door creaked open, revealing a narrow passage cloaked in darkness. Elena's stomach twisted. "What now?" she breathed, but the man didn't answer. Instead, he took a quick step into the gloom, urging them forward. Behind her, the laughter grew louder, an echoing taunt from the hunters who seemed to thrive on fear. It seemed impossible to escape, to outrun that sinister sound. Max squeezed her hand harder, terror mirrored in Mia's wide eyes. "Keep moving." The man insisted, his voice laced with urgency. They huddled together, stepping inside the small passage that smelled like moist earth and decay, the walls slick and close. "Hurry," Mia whispered, her breath quickening as they slipped into the gloom. The faint light from the flashlight barely penetrated the darkness ahead. Each step felt like a leap into uncertainty. What if the hunters were already waiting in the shadows? What if they lost their way? The fear gnawed at her insides like a wild animal. "Are we safe yet?" Max asked, voice shaking. Elena wanted to lie, to protect him from the truth, but the words wouldn't come. "Just a little further," she managed, trying to sound brave. As they pressed on, the passage sloped downward. Silvered cobwebs hung like ghosts in the corners, glistening threads catching the light. They turned a corner to find an old cellar, the air thick with dust. In the far corner, light flickered, adding a sinister glow to the space. Elena inhaled sharply. "What's that?" The man squinted, directing the flashlight toward the source. A small lantern flickered on a table, illuminating a fragile map laid open beside it. "It's a map," he said breathlessly. "It shows tunnels. Maybe we can find a way out." Elena approached cautiously. The map was weathered, the ink faded but still legible. Each line represented a tunnel, each mark a possible escape. But as she traced the path with her finger, unease settled in her chest. What if these lead us further into danger? Every door and every escape leads us somewhere. Just like the name, right? It's a gamble, the man said, his voice steady, but uncertainty flicker across his face. The laughter echoed again, this time sounding gratingly close. Panic surged, and Elena shook her head. We can't stay here. Not with them right behind us. Then we choose, he said, glancing at the map, his eyes darting between the routes. We follow the path toward the old docks. It should lead us out of town. Quickly. Okay. Elena said, urgency igniting in her. They couldn't waste any more time. She grabbed the map and folded it with shaky hands. Suddenly, the laughter turned into a roar, a wave of voice that jolted through the air, sending a cold shiver down her spine. It was followed by heavy footsteps. The hunters were close. Now! The man yelled as he turned to lead them toward another door, one that opened directly onto the cellar floor. Elena's heart thundered as they raced toward it. The door creaked ominously as they pushed through, rushing into another dark tunnel, this one damp and slimy underfoot. The sound of their escape echoed against the walls, drowning in the creeping shadows, but then, just ahead, a dim light flickered. Elena squinted, hoping it led to freedom. They hurried toward it, and what they found knocked the breath from her chest. Someone stood in the light. A figure wrapped in shadows, a hood obscuring their face. Elena, the figure whispered, voice soft but chilling. Recognition surged, but dread clawed at her throat. Who are you? No time for questions. Follow me. They are here. Before she could react, the figure darted to the side, disappearing into another passageway. With no choice left and the hunters closing in, Elena urged her children to move, but before she took a step, a shout pierced the air, slicing through the tension like a knife. Get them. Elena felt her heart stop. In that moment, she knew they were trapped between the hunters and the hooded figure. What would happen next? Who was this mysterious savior, and could they really trust them? Or were they unwittingly walking into the heart of darkness? Elena's instinct screamed at her to run. She grabbed Max's hand tighter, the fear coursing through her veins like ice. They were caught in a web of dark choices. The hooded figure stood before them, an enigma wrapped in shadows, offering a flicker of hope amid the encroaching danger. Come on, come on. The figure urged, glancing back into the tunnel where the laughter merged with footsteps, a harsh reminder that the hunters were near. They were a beast close on their heels, relentless. Mom! Max cried, his small voice quivering. Trust me, Elena murmured, though doubt twisted in her gut. Every part of her wanted to flee in the opposite direction, but here she was, teetering on the edge of decision, facing a stranger who could either be salvation or doom. With a quick glance at the shadows behind her, she made the snap decision. We follow, she said, more for herself than for her kids. Let us go. Together, they sprinted after the hooded figure into the darkness. The passage narrowed further, the air heavy and dank around them, as they rounded a corner and slipped into a dimly lit chamber. The atmosphere shifted, the walls lined with old crates and cobwebs, the air thick with the scent of mildew. Over here. The figure urged, moving toward a small door, barely visible against the wall. Elena hesitated, torn between safety and suspicion. Who are you? She demanded again, the urgency of their situation sharpening her words. I'm someone who knows these tunnels, just like you. My name is Sam, the figure finally revealed, lowering the hood to unveil a face stark in the flickering light, eyes bright and intent. There was something familiar, something that resonated painfully in Elena's memory, but she pushed it aside for now. She couldn't afford to dwell on shadows of the past when real danger surged in the present. The laughter echoed louder, twisting through the air like a curse. Sam, we need to move now. Right, Sam replied, a spark of urgency igniting in their eyes. This way. As they rushed through the door, Elena felt a sense of urgency rising, mixed with a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the escape they needed if they could just make it past the hunters. The corridor they entered was narrower, the walls feeling like they were closing in. Every scraping step sounded amplified in the suffocating silence, hammering at her nerves. Suddenly, another roar of laughter erupted from the corridor behind them. The hunters were close. Panic prickled at her skin. "How far to the docks?" she asked, her voice steadying. "Not far, but we need to weave through these tunnels carefully." "They know them too," Sam replied, glancing back at the entrance. As they pressed forward, Elena tried to push aside the terror. Was Sam really there to help, or was it just another part of a twisted game? Then, without warning, Sam stopped. "Elena, wait," they said, eyes wide, piercing through the shadows. "We need to turn here." And before Sam could finish, a thundering crash echoed behind them. The entrance burst open, silhouettes danced in the flickering light, a line of dark figures spilling into the chamber. "Run!" Sam shouted, and they darted down a side passage. Elena's heart pounded furiously, each beat resonating with the terror that clawed at her insides. The passage twisted and turned, a maze of choices that could either lead them to safety or a dead end. As they rounded a corner, the sound of footsteps thudded closer. Max stumbled, and she instinctively grabbed his arm, pulling him close while urging Mia to follow. "Stay together," she panted, fear brewing into desperate urgency. But just as they thought they gained some distance, they came upon a steep drop, the ground vanishing into a yawning abyss. A splintered beam hung precariously across the gap, wooden and cracked. "What now?" Mia squeaked, eyes wide with fear. "Jump," Sam commanded, stepping onto the beam and motioning them forward. Elena's heart raced as she looked at the gap. Could they really make that jump? "Mom!" Max whimpered, clutching her hand tightly. Then, before she could take a breath, she heard the hunters. Behind them a rush of laughter like a blood-chilling wind that stole her will. "Jump!" she cried, feeling the weight of the moment crushing in around her. In a heartbeat, she made her decision. Together, they launched themselves toward the beam, not knowing if they would land safely or fall into the unknown. As they flew through the air, Elena's last thought before impact was full of dread. What awaited them on the other side? Would they truly find safety? Or was the chase just beginning? The darkness loomed, hungry for their fear, and as they landed, a chilling laughter echoed in her ears, sealing their fate. Elena braced herself for impact, the world spinning around her for what felt like an eternity. When she landed, the thud reverberated through her body, sending a shockwave of pain up through her legs. She quickly steadied herself, blinking in the dim light that flooded the new space. "Is everyone okay?" she gasped, crouching down anxiously as she scanned for Max and Mia. Max nodded, but Mia's face was pale, her breath quick and shallow. Elena could see the fright locked in her daughter's eyes, reflecting the same fear that tightened Elena's own chest. They were alive, but the oppressive darkness whispered a warning it was far from over. "Stay close, don't move too far," Elena urged, gripping the kids' hands as they stood on the edge of a narrow ledge. Below them, a dark void yawned, filled with the echoes of indistinct murmurs. It was unsettling, as if unseen things were watching, waiting for a chance to leap. "Which way now?" Sam asked, scanning the walls surrounding them. Cracks streaked through the stone like jagged scars, and the air felt thicker here, charged with an electric tension. "There." Elena pointed to a faint glow seeping through a crack in a distant wall, a beacon in this tangled nightmare. "We can head toward that light." Just as they turned to move, the laughter erupted again from somewhere above them, echoing off the walls, each peal mocking their plight. The hunters were closer than ever, and every second in this suffocating darkness robbed them of precious time. "This way," Sam urged again, tugging Elena forward. They slipped into a passage that led deeper into the earth, the air cold and stagnant. The walls closed in, pressing against her psyche, and every step felt heavy, as if the weight of their fear clung to their backs like a shadow. Elena glanced back, expecting to see the hunters closing in, but all she saw was darkness. The laughter had faded into a low whisper, then silence crept over them, a blanket of dread that felt like it could smother her. "Where are we going?" Max's voice broke through the oppressive quiet, fearful and small. To a place that's safe, Elena replied, though her voice wavered with uncertainty. Ahead, the passage widened, revealing a cavernous chamber illuminated by an otherworldly glow. Strange crystals protruded from the walls, casting shifting colors across the rocky surface, but any beauty was overshadowed by the horror of their escape. In the center of the chamber sat a massive stone altar, ancient and cracked. Shivers ran down Elena's spine as she instinctively pulled her children closer. That altar felt wrong, like a place of sacrifice forgotten by time. What is this place? Mia asked, her voice trembling. I don't know, Elena whispered, heart racing, but instinct told her they needed to keep moving. Suddenly, a low rumble sounded from the ceiling, and dust trickled down like rain. A deep crack erupted through the ground, splitting the cavern, and she could sense things stirring within the depths, something ancient, something alive. Faster! Sam shouted, heading toward a tunnel leading out of the chamber. As they fled, Elena stole one last glance back. The altar now emitted a faint pulsating light, and she could swear she saw shadows shifting around it. A twinge of fear twisted in her stomach. What if they disturbed something best left alone? They burst through the tunnel into another narrow hallway, desperation pushing them forward. And it was only moments later, amid the steady thudding of their hearts, that Elena realized Sam had slowed their pace, scanning the wall intently. Wait! Sam whispered, pressing a hand against the stone. What is it? Elena pressed, but dread replaced any hope she might have felt. It's Sam started, eyes widening in recognition. It's a hidden door. The moment hung in the air. Should they trust Sam? Should they stop while the hunters were close behind? Then, above them, the laughter erupted again, echoing through the tunnels, palpable and sinister. Please, Mia begged, squeezing Elena's hand, let's go. All her instincts screamed at her to run, but something deep in Elena twisted within her. What lay behind that door? Was it a way out or a gateway to more horrors? Push it open! She yelled, heart racing as the laughter grew closer. They would find out soon enough what awaited them beyond that threshold. But at what price? The door creaked ominously, and as it slowly swung open, Elena felt a chill seep into her bones. What if this was the beginning of their end? As the door creaked and opened wider, an icy wind surged through, sweeping around them like a wailing spirit. Elena instinctively shielded her children, her heart racing as her eyes adjusted to the sudden brightness spilling from the threshold. What is it? Max whispered, his voice barely audible over the howling gust. Elena could only shake her head, her mind racing with worry. Whatever lay beyond that door, they had no choice but to confront it. The sinister laughter faded into a haunting echo down the corridor, but the presence of the hunters loomed like a dark cloud overhead. Go! Elena urged, pushing Sam and the kids forward as she stepped into the new space, each heartbeat thundering in her ears. They entered a cavernous room lit by shimmering, crystalline formations embedded in the stone walls. The light refracted in a kaleidoscope of colors, dancing across the floor and illuminating dust motes that floated like tiny spirits trapped in the air. Elena's breath caught in her throat as she glimpsed the bizarre scenery. Strange murals adorned the walls, intricate carvings depicting scenes of conflict and ritualistic ceremonies, their purpose long forgotten. In the far corner stood another altar, eerily similar to the one they fled from. Stay close, she whispered, gripping Mia's hand tighter as the shadows seemed to twist and pulse with life. Mom, I don't like this. Mia protested, her eyes wide with fear. Elena forced a smile, but it felt brittle on her lips. I know. Just hold on. We'll find a way out. Yet inside, doubt gnawed at her. What if this place wasn't a sanctuary but a trap? As they cautiously moved deeper into the chamber, the air grew thick, laden with an unsettling energy. Sam stepped forward, staring at the mural depicting what appeared to be the very same altar they'd encountered earlier. His face paled. Look, he said, pointing towards the figures that surrounded the altar. They were swathed in cloaks, their faces hidden, but one figure stood out. Tall and commanding, it bore an intricate crown made of twisted metal and fierce-looking stones. Who is that? Max asked, voice quivering. I don't know, Elena admitted, feeling a dread wash over her. But something tells me we need to stay away from whatever this is. Suddenly, a rumble echoed from above, shaking the walls as dust rained down. Instinctively, Elena looked up, and her heart dropped as she spotted shadowy figures moving through the entrance they had just come from hunters, materializing like dark phantoms. "Back!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the encroaching panic. Turning, she gripped Sam and Mia tightly and sprinted towards the other side of the chamber, but before they could reach an exit, the ground trembled violently again, and a fissure tore through the center of the altar. The glow intensified, blinding her momentarily. "What is happening?" Max screamed, clutching her hand. The altar pulsed with frantic energy, sending crackles of light skimming across the ground. It was as if it were awakening, alive with a force she couldn't comprehend. "Get back!" Elena yelled, lunging away from the growing crack, but it was too late. Tentacles of energy shot out like serpents, lashing out and bringing with them a low growl that threatened to pull them into the abyss. She could feel the breath of something ancient and terrible flooding the air around them. Elena fought to keep her children close, but as the shadows advanced, fear clawed at her, wrapping around her heart like a vice. She couldn't shake the sense that they had unleashed something from its slumber, and it was hungry. "Mom!" Mia cried, eyes fixed on the altar. "Make it stop." As Elena turned as if to confront the wicked energy, she noticed a shimmering stone lying near the altar's edge, pulsating with the same glow. It looked almost inviting. Was it a key? Or something far worse? "Hold on!" She shouted one last time, launching towards the stone amidst the chaos, but in that moment of decision, a deafening roar erupted from the altar, shaking the very foundations of the chamber. The ground opened wider, threatening to swallow them whole. Would she take the risk, or would it doom them all? With everything hanging in the balance, Elena had to make a choice. But would it lead her to salvation or destruction? Time was running out, and the darkness was closing in. Elena's heart raced as she lunged toward the shimmering stone. Time felt distorted, stretched as she grasped the luminous object. The energy pulsed in her palm, warm and alive. She could almost hear it calling her, urging her to use it. "Mom!" Max's terrified voice cut through the chaos, pulling her focus back to the swirling darkness. The hunters were flooding into the chamber, shadows locked in pursuit, laughter echoing in a warped symphony of horror. Without a moment to lose, Elena clutched the stone and shouted, "Get ready!" She felt an overwhelming surge of power erupt through her, mingling with raw fear and maternal instinct. This was not just a tool, it was a lifeline. As the hunters closed in, their faces twisted with malevolence, she raised the stone high. Its glow intensified, radiating throughout the cavern. The energy exploded outward, enveloping them in a blinding light. In that instant, the hunters reeled back, their laughter morphing into shrieks of shock and terror. The ground beneath the altar rumbled again, and with a force that drove her to her knees, the chamber shuddered. "Elena! What did you do?" Sam shouted, shielding his eyes as the glow engulfed them. "I don't know. Just hold on," she cried, adrenaline pumping through her veins. The light swallowed the hunters, and she could see them struggle against its power, shadows distorting as the very fabric of the cave seemed to unravel before her eyes. A fierce wind swept around them, lifting her hair and clothes, racing past, and then the ground beneath her trembled violently. The fissures widened, and with a crash, the altar shattered, sending a rush of blinding light into the darkness, swallowing everything in its path. Max and Mia clung to her tightly as the chamber's walls trembled and shook. Slowly, the light receded, drawing the remnants of the hunters into the depths below, their screams fading as the shadows were consumed. When the light finally dimmed, silence filled the air, heavy with disbelief. They were alive. Panting, Elena glanced around. The once menacing room transformed. Soft light settled gently over them, revealing the twisted murals now alive with color, filled with stories of heroes, battles, and sacrifices. "Are we safe?" Mia's voice cracked, filled with uncertainty and hope. Elena exhaled sharply, her heart still racing, but the danger felt distant now. "I think we are. At least for now." "Look," Sam said, kneeling near the ruins of the altar. "The stone, it broke apart, and it's inactive." I think it was protecting us. The weight of her decision washed over her. She had felt fear and power clash harmoniously. The choice had been risky, but it had led them to safety. Holding the kids tight, they stepped over the broken altar, making their way back to the corridor. A sense of resolve grew within her as they walked. "We're not done fighting, right?" she asked, her voice stronger now, rippling with newfound confidence. "Right," Max exclaimed, determination shining in his eyes. Sam gave a nod of solidarity. "Let us find a way out of this place." As they navigated through the trembling passages, the echoes of their breath resounded, but there was no laughter, no menacing footsteps behind them. It felt freeing. They would reclaim their lives, piece by piece, moment by moment. David might have taken away their home, but not their will to fight for one another. They emerged into the blink of daylight, filtering through a narrow exit, illuminating a rugged escape route spiraling upward toward freedom. The sun welcomed them back into the world, warm and reassuring. Elena squinted against the light, but as they stepped outside, everything she fought for made sense. Max and Mia cheered, hope reanimating the air around them. Elena felt the weight of the night lift. It wouldn't be easy, they still had struggles ahead, but they had each other. She had her children, the courage to confront the past, and the strength to protect her future. "Now, let us go home," she said, her heart full. As the warmth of the sun spread over them, Elena looked at her children, feeling a deep sense of peace settle within. No more shadows, no more hunters. They were free, and together, they would find a way to start anew. Remember, everyone. This is the moment to show your support for this channel. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories we have in store. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this going. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voice matters. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us grow this community together.